Welcome to the Career Wanderlust Podcast, your compass for new career horizons. Today, we are talking with Lisa Picasso. Lisa is a brand strategy expert and master of storytelling. Having started her career at Oxford University, Lisa went on to work with Yak Pack before joining the PR agency Launch Squad. Lisa has excelled while at Launch Squad, helping them grow into a leading agency and becoming a senior vice president while working with clients such as Allbirds and Bonobos. I'm excited to learn more. Lisa, thank you for joining us on the Career Wanderlust podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. Honored to be here.
I appreciate it. I would love, could you tell us what you feel has been some of your favorite career advice and why?
Yeah, I think, just committing to being who you are early on. I think we fall into the trap of feeling like we need to, you know, always accelerate our career, move to the next step, ask for the bigger job, the raise, make a pivot. And I think those things are really interesting catalysts that can kind of guide you and serve this sort of ambition that we all have. But I think kind of staying true to what drives you and what turns you on and what like gets you out of bed in the morning is actually really useful and unfortunately doesn't really come into clarity until later on in your career. When you have a stronger sense of like, oh, this is what I'm good at and this is what I get excited about.
Right. Very true. What's interesting is, what you were saying that sometimes you do these things because you feel like you should. I completely get that as a recruiter when I'm working with more junior people. A lot of times I feel like in the back of my head, I'm like, are you doing this because you read an article? Or, you know, or is this
Or
really what it is that you want? Or is this you're doing this because you feel like you're supposed to? And so it's really good advice to be like, okay, what is it that your true goal is here? What is it that you want? And what are the best ways to get there?
yeah, and I think it's advice that's easier said than done, and I think it's also, not that's something to kind of try to hold on to and think about not just in your career, but in your life, your whole life, right? Like
Completely.
what is in my heart, what is in my gut, and what do I really want to do? And that's sort of like why we're all, seeing a therapist, right? Like trying to figure that. So, again, it's probably advice easier said than done, but I try to
Speaking of which, is there anything that has helped you embody that? I mean,
Oh, yeah. I think, yeah, therapy. No, just kidding.
true story though.
Yeah, so processing with people, talking to other people I admire throughout my career that have maybe, made difficult career choices. I think processing with
Right.
peers in my friend group and sort of for me, breaking down my day to day and looking at like what am I doing each day that actually brings me joy? And is my current career and my current job, what is it providing me and how is it making me feel? What am I getting to do? And if that still feels in alignment, then you can kind of let go of like other people, outside expectations of like, I need more money or I need a bigger role or I need a fancy whatever. So it's, I don't know, my cliche
Yes.
answer, like it's the inner work, but it
It
kind of
is.
is, you
It
know?
is the inner work, and it's that I love what you get right there. It came home. It's that, what do I think I need? Is and then a lot of that comes from outside influences. A lot of
Yeah.
times, like
Yeah.
society or other people or what you think you're
And
supposed to be doing. Versus what is it that you really want?
yeah.
So that's really good. I like that.
Yeah.
It's good
Well,
advice.
again, all of it is easier said than done. And
Always.
there's no like easy answers ever.
No,
So
no. But if you can learn from someone else, it
yeah.
helps ease some of the pain,
Yeah.
of going through things yourself, but
Yeah.
again, that's easier said than done too.
Yeah.
No, okay, so I'd love a story. Can you share a story about what I know something that happened in your work environment that was like an impactful lesson and you learned something from it? What happened? What did you learn?
Yeah, I have many. I think there's a couple kind of stories kind of intertwined in one.
Mhm.
So, my current role, I've been at Launch Squad for almost 15 years, which is kind of extraordinary. And we can maybe unpack that later. But I left and took a job, not for any of the reasons previously discussed, but I took a job and I immediately knew the job was wrong. I wasn't connecting with the people. I didn't really enjoy the work. I felt like it was almost like bordering on an unhealthy environment, and
Mhm.
it created like a new perspective on, what Launch Squad was like for me when I first started working there. So I ended up leaving that job and going back to Launch Squad, which
Mhm.
was like very um weird at the time. I think this is like 2009, and I ended up working remotely for Launch Squad at that time. And so I had to have the courage and get over the shame of being like, I left and this new job was not a good fit. It was kind of a disaster. There was some unhealthy things going on. And so, like, in terms of just relationships, not anything
Mhm.
scary. But I just realized this was not a good place to be. And so
Mhm.
Launch Squad welcomed me back with open arms. And so I think the learning there was failing is okay.
Yes.
I left the company, took a new job, and it didn't work out, and so accepting failure and not even it wasn't a failure, right? It was this
Yeah.
didn't work out, and then acknowledging that it's okay for it to not work out, and I know what is actually a good fit, and I went back to Launch Squad, and when I came back, I had a whole new perspective, not only on what makes an incredible workplace versus one that's not a good fit for me, but just probably having more freedom and openness in the way I was able to make decisions in the workplace.
Mhm.
I was initially embarrassed to leave a job that I had left Launch Squad for, and I just there was a lot of shame wrapped up in it, but
Mhm.
I let it go, and then it cracked open this whole second chapter for me at Launch Squad and ended up, obviously being a really good thing. So,
Yeah.
I guess, like, the core learnings, you know, letting go of ego, not feeling shame, having courage to do things even though it feels kind of like, "Oh god, am I screwing up my career?" Um, and this was I had no idea what I was doing,
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
20 something, I had no idea what I was doing, and I don't think my parents were necessarily guiding me, they were like, "Yeah, like, do that," and so I did it, and it all worked out, and, it was very formative in how I looked at my career and the rest of my journey.
Oh, I mean, there are so many great lessons in there, not only in your career, but in life in general. I mean, just like the acceptance of failure, right? I mean, to me, like there is no such thing as failure. It's either you're
Right,
winning or you're learning, right? It's one or the other. And you had amazing learning in that experience. And it actually taught you some really impactful things that a lot of people don't learn until later on in life. So kudos on that. And then and
yeah,
then really acceptance of story, right? Like cuz that shame, that's something that I think a lot of people can resonate with. Like when you make a decision or something happens and you have the shame, you think, oh, you have this regret or what have you, but it's just really about, okay, this is a part of my story. This is one of my stepping stones that I went through. This is the learning process I had to go through to get to here. And it is. It's this is now a part of my story. It's accepting it and owning it and appreciating it because you
absolutely.
wouldn't be where you are without it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and like that, it wasn't a bad workplace. It just wasn't, like, at all a good fit for me, and I had to make a really tough decision and, kind of take the leap, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Uh,
And that's what it's like. I mean, as a recruiter, I can say, I mean, definitely there are some toxic environments you just do not want to be in. For the
yes.
most part, most environments, it's about finding the right person. We all have different personalities and we all are going to fit in different types of environments. And it's finding the right one that's for
Yeah,
you.
absolutely. I mean, I'm
So,
sure you're hearing feedback all day long about, what's a good fit or what people are looking for and how to kind of, like, match make and make sure that your people are gonna get in a situation and they're gonna thrive, and,
mhm.
um, I'm sure you've got all kinds of interesting stories on that front.
Well, and it's very, I mean, the fact that you went back to Launch Squad too, and that you were able to get clarity on what it is that's important to you, and Launch Squad filled those things. It says a lot about the company. Can you tell us a little bit about Launch Squad? I mean, what do you guys
Yeah,
do well? What do you look for in your talent? I mean, what do you want to share with us about the company?
yeah, it's an interesting company. I always say, like, it's not a company, it's like a vibe or that's God, I sound so old, but it's like bigger than a company. It because we have such a huge network and it's spans so many different categories and generations of people. 20 plus year old PR and storytelling agency, and our roots are in sort of Silicon Valley and the rise of, technology and startup culture. And, today we work with companies almost in every category of business. The common thread is, is this company innovating? Are they doing something to change the world or their respective industry.
Mhm.
And so we sort of plug into their business and help them outline, what is your story? How do we help you grow and sort of share and evangelize your story? And how do we, it's PR and content. So it's also this kind of, how do we help make you relevant with the now? So you might be doing something really incredible and innovative over here, but how do we make that feel sort of pop culturally, economically, financially, whatever, the lane is relevant? And it's super cool. And we have, the warmest, most creative, nicest, talented people. And we get to work with, similarly, all of our clients are that way. And it's just been like it's an agency. So I've probably worked with maybe 100 companies at this point, and you're constantly kind of exposed to new brands and new CEOs and new technologies and things that I'm just like, "Oh my god, I'm not smart enough to be talking to this company, but we're here and let's go?"
Yeah. That's
Um,
awesome.
so yeah, that's Launch
Fascinating
Pad.
people. Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
Now, what about is there something that you've read, watched, or listened to, that has impacted you in a positive way that you think could benefit other people?
Yeah, I mean, I thought about this a lot. I think for me, it's a series of things that I've read. Well, I have one TV show that I'm gonna plug, but it's a series of things that I have read that has come out sort of like in the last 3 to 5 years about well, I became a parent in the last 5 years, so
Mhm.
I don't know if the
Congratulations.
content Thank you. I don't know if the content increased or if I've just become more attuned to it, but really any kind of content that is talking about being a working parent and what
Mm,
that means. And so obviously there's a lot of, we need better childcare leave and things like that, which is
yes, we do.
1000% true.
Yeah.
But the more macro points are how to, be an impactful worker and be a parent and be a human being, and how does this all blend together? And
Yes.
so this content looks like anything from, I mean, I even think like Glennon Doyle's book in what's her latest book? I think that,
Was it Untamed? Was that her latest
yeah.
one?
I
Or
mean, I
yes.
think
Okay.
Untamed, obviously she's kind of like exploded into like pop culture and is sort of everywhere, but I do think her work is pretty
I
groundbreaking.
loved it. Yeah, I loved it.
I will go back to
Yeah.
it in terms of how we sort of take agency over our life and our work,
Mhm.
and I think like Glennon
Yes.
Doyle was one, and I
Mhm.
continue to enjoy her point of view, and then I
Agreed.
think other lesser known people like Anne Helen Peterson, who, used to write a lot about pop culture, and now she has more of a sociological lens on everything from, community and working parents and women and working, and anything she's writing, it
Interesting.
continues to be, like, punch you in the stomach. This is exactly what we need to be talking about, and
Yeah.
all of these things are, how do we get equity in the workplace and
Mhm.
find, meaning in and out of work and have it all work together, and
Mhm.
the downside is that, like, we're not doing that great of a job. On the flip side, we're, like, advancing the conversation so quickly and good things are happening. So,
Mhm. That's the
those are just a
beginning.
couple writers that I
Mhm.
have really come to sort of like follow and, listen to and
Great
revere.
suggestions. Thank you. Really great suggestions. You said there was a movie you wanted to plug?
Oh, there was just a TV show.
TV show.
I love TV. Uh, people ask what my hobbies are, and I'm like,
Yeah.
TV.
Yeah.
Um, there's just a show on HBO that I can't stop talking about. It's not because the setting is Kansas, but it's a show called Somebody Somewhere, and
Oh, that is really good.
you watch this?
Yeah.
Well, I think the show and the writing is, like, perfect. It's just about building community and you're building a family, and your chosen family. But I
Mhm.
also think Bridget Everett has a really interesting career. I think she found success, like, really big success later in life, and all the people on that show are friends and people she has relationships with, and she's sort of
Oh, that's
plugging them
cool.
into that show. I just think it's an example of quiet, really high quality work is like a just an instantly iconic show,
Mhm.
and so plug in that.
Yeah,
Somebody
I loved
somewhere.
it. Oh, yeah, I'm glad you are. Yeah.
Oh, good.
Fantastic. Okay, well, before you go, I'd love to know, Final question. What is your personal superpower and how has it helped you in life?
Oh, yeah. This is, for me, probably being God, I feel again, I'm like whipping out all the cliches, but I think I'm a very good read of people
Mhm.
and reading the room and kind of feeling people's energy. So
Mm,
I be empathic. And so, I always joke that I'm like maybe not the smartest person, but I can feel where people are and understand them. And I have, maybe the more like work centric way to present this is I have a genuine interest and love for understanding people's stories and where they come
yes.
from and where they're at in their life. And so I think that helps me to, understand from a client perspective where they're at with their business, what their needs are,
Mhm.
how can we help? How can we work together and collaborate and be creative and do all kinds of cool stuff. So
Oh, absolutely. I would imagine that helps you a lot. Being empathetic is a major superpower because not only are you able to read all of that and do a good job of understanding, I would imagine you probably do a good job of helping them feel understood and feel heard, which makes a great
oh, yeah,
difference.
I always say that, like, half the battle in our career, right, which is working with clients and trying to help them succeed is, yes, we wanna get results and make a bunch of good things happen, but it's also, like, creating a relationship and just being really good communicators and helping them
Mhm.
understand what's happening. That's, like, all
Right.
anybody really wants
Yeah.
is to be heard and to feel like you get their experience. So,
Right. And
again,
that's going to lead to good client retention in the communications field.
yeah, yeah,
Really, really great relationship retention in your personal life.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I know it's a buzzword, but, I think, like, big picture, that's all we kind of want for with anyone is to understand what other people's experiences are, so
Yeah. Yeah. That's wonderful. Oh,
yeah,
thank you so much, Lisa. This has been great. I really appreciate you joining us on the Career Wanderlust podcast.
thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us on the Career Wanderlust podcast. If you find value in learning from others, give us a like and subscribe. If you're looking to grow your communications, marketing, public relations, or sales and biz dev team with the best talent and quickly, check us out at paradigmstaffing.com and submit a request. We are wishing you a most successful and fulfilling career. Until next time.